The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, and let's welcome Karen Testerman, who's a candidate for governor here in New Hampshire. Karen, how are you today?
I'm well, thank you so much, Carl, for inviting me to be on your show today.
Well, you're the first one that we've done where you're remote and I'm in the studio, so it's going to be a novel way, and hopefully everything goes well. And this goes on YouTube, and you can show it around and put it on your website. So,
well, thank you. I would definitely will.
So, what are you doing with your campaign now? You said you had an event last night, a fundraiser, and it was successful. You have another one scheduled, or?
Well, last night was an event actually to help Jerry and Susan DeLamus, because as many people may know or not know, Jerry was incarcerated for going out to stand for liberty for the Bundy family out in Nevada. And about 2 years later, the FBI and the State Department decided that he was a domestic terror, even though he wasn't actually in the vicinity the day that that they were charging him with having committed this domestic terrorism. And so at any rate, Jerry is still in prison, has been for the last 4 years, and serving out an 8-year term. And so Susan has no breadwinner at home and has been unable to work because of a physical injury. So we had a fundraiser for her last night, and we managed to raise $3,500, and I'm really excited about it. Tomorrow, because of the governor's most recent emergency order, where he said any gathering of over 100 people would be required to mandatory mask wearing. Mm-hmm. And there are many of us who choose to not put a face covering on because it is a violation of our right to choose. And so we're having a rally at the State House at 9 o'clock in the morning.
9 o'clock tomorrow morning? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
That is it.
And that is sort of saying that the governor's not being fair. Is that actually one of the reasons you're running against him?
Well, it's more the unconstitutional issues of edicts and telling people what they have to do, how far they have to stand apart from one another, whether they can open their business, whether they're essential businesses or non-essential businesses, has really taken had a strong impact on our small business community. And we've had a number of businesses who will not reopen at the end of this. Now we're working on 6 months of government malfeasance. And when we look at this and we find out that these people are not able to go to work, to bring home the food or the money that they need to put the roof over their head and gas in their car and food on their table, then it's hurting the Granite Stater. And that's the main reason that I decided to enter the gubernatorial race at this point, because I just see the violation of our Constitution and the taking away of our liberties.
I see what you're saying, and also it doesn't even seem logical if it's one number for whatever kind of gathering you have, whether you're in a small room or an amphitheater.
Well, you know, Carl, it's really funny. This virus, of which there are millions surrounding us, and everywhere we turn, there's a virus or a pathogen or a bacteria of some sort that's in our environment. But this one is really, really smart. It can tell time So if the restaurant is open past 9 o'clock, they know that the virus is going to go to bed at that time. So it's not going to bother you after 9 o'clock. It knows what size, oh goodness, it knows what size crowd you're in. So you know whether or not it's less than 10 people or more than 100. It's the smartest virus in the whole wide world, and it just fascinates me.
Yeah, well, there's always situations that really don't fit into the rules in some way, you know, and
True.
It makes it difficult for people to carry on just the way they're used to. I know the things that I'm doing too with interviewing people and having a discussion, it's very hard to put it all together. So I imagine it's a little difficult for you to do your campaigning.
Well, actually, we've been very fortunate with my campaigning, and because of technology, Facebook, Twitter,
Right.
Parler, these different things, and YouTube, then we have been able to get our message out. We still need to do some hard copy messaging. So that's going to take money too. So if anybody wants to donate to the campaign, Ted Cruz used to say, every appearance that you make is a fundraising appearance. So please donate to KarenTesterman.com because we certainly could use the funds in order to get our message out.
Well, you're like every candidate there. They all need some money to fund either the advertising or the handouts or whatever. You have to communicate, and it's costly, whatever it is. Even the traveling.
Yes, it is. Well, and I was very, very blessed because the first day that I filed, someone was standing at my door saying, I need you to buy signs and I need you to buy shirts. So here's some money to fund it. And so I got that donation and I put it to work right away. Hey. And so I had signs right off the bat. I had shirts right off the bat, and the message is going out.
Well, that's good to hear. It's, I think, you find that in this state. You know, there's a lot of people that like to get involved with the political systems, and some of them, fortunately, can donate enough money to help you out. So.
Well, Carl, I have to tell you that the state of New Hampshire is an exceptional state. So in 1993, when my husband had retired from his career in the Air Force, we came to New Hampshire. We chose to come to New Hampshire because we loved the low tax rate, no income tax, no sales tax. It was the live free or die motto. It had beautiful scenery. We could get to the beaches and to the mountains within an hour either way, and into a big city if we wanted to go take advantage of culture. So before it was vogue to be a free stater, David and I were free staters, and we came to this state, had no idea about the political climate. And when you come to New Hampshire and find out that not only does it have the third largest legislative body in the world, but you can actually talk to your representatives. You don't have to stand in long lines to get to them. Mm-hmm. You can talk to your congressional delegation. The first event I went to, I didn't pay for. And in a room of about 300 people, there was two senators and a congressman. And I could go up and share my ideas with them. That was phenomenal. And the more I learned about New Hampshire, learning about the Executive Council as the last voice for the elected, for the people, and those were our elected representatives, it was just more and more fascinating to me. So I became very active in the state of New Hampshire. I worked in education to make sure that we weren't going to go down. We were trying not to go down the road where there was going to be indoctrination. We weren't successful in doing that, but I worked to also establish the Family Policy Council, Cornerstone Policy Research. I worked with Ed Nail at the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers to try and uncover and expose voter fraud. I've worked with Diane Gilbert to help establish the National Heritage for Constitutional Studies to encourage people to actually read and study their Constitution so they understood what our founding fathers were trying to do. So I have been very, very busy. Plus, I actually was blessed to have a radio program given to me early on. So I've been on radio for probably 13 years now. And I get to do TV as well and Nashua Access. And so, you know, I've been very, very blessed to have a lot of opportunities to engage with people and learn more and more about the state and try and keep it the live free or die state and the constitutional state that it was intended to be.
Right. Well, I think you make a good sales lady for New Hampshire, that's for sure. You just went through a whole list of good things about us.
But you know, the other thing, Carl, we don't pay our legislators very much money. So they are serving as volunteers, as you well know. We only pay you $100 a year to serve us. And in other states, it's $10,000s and thousands of dollars.
Right.
And so, you know, they can get by with a whole lot of things simply because of money and power.
Well, tell us, if elected, what do you think you do with, as far as the operation of the state is? What would you change, or what would you emphasize? How would you deal with the legislature, which would be a different party than you?
Well, it could be. Hopefully, we are able to elect Republicans down the line, because I do believe that it's the Republican Party that has the better policies and ideas that they promote. But to start off with, one of the first things we're going to have to do is to balance the budget, and because of the current economic challenge, we're going to be down probably $500, maybe $600 million. And so we're going to have to tighten our belts and figure out where do we stop spending that money, because I don't think it's going to be a revenue problem as much as it's going to be a spending problem that we're going to face. And so certainly every division would have to go in and examine what is it they're supposed to do, how efficient are they, and we're going to have to make a decision on that. The other thing is that, you know, we used to have a biennial session in New Hampshire. And so we only put forth maybe 1,000 bills every 2 years total. Well, right now, with the legislature meeting every year, we go through 800 to 1,000 bills every year. And that's costly to the state. But the other thing that happens is we've got a lot of bills or laws, not just bills, but laws on the books right now. I guess in 1950, I was told that we had like 4 books of laws. And today it's like 30 books of laws. So I would propose to our legislator and try to convince them that it would be a good idea if every committee looked at the laws that are existing right now, find out which ones are constitutional, figure out which ones are redundant, find out if there's some that are should have been sunsetted or no longer applicable. See if they also refer to an area in the law books that no longer exists because it's been repealed. And then I would recommend that they take that finding, and the next time we meet, the following January, start submitting bills to clean up our law books so that we can reduce the size of our law books down to what it was before, at least somewhere close to the 4 that it used to be, say, in 1950. We might even get to half of that. That would be great if we got down to 8 or 9. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Yeah, that would be. It sounds, though, you know, we've done it in 2011 and 12 when we had the same kind of a hole. It was $1 billion, and we had to cut that down to cut that hole, cover it up by just not spending as much, you know, as was
Exactly.
intended. And so it was done before, can be done again, but you have to have somebody who's strong up there who's going to be able to say, we can't do that. I mean, or what?
Right.
Where do you want to get the money from? You know, if you want to do something, well, this is what we propose. You're going to have to take it from someplace and put it in where you want it, and see if people will vote for it. It's going to be a tough one, and there's going to be. There were lots of things that have been vetoed in the legislation that has been passed this year, and a lot of that had taxes in it, new taxes, income taxes, more taxes on your savings and everything like that. That's going to be tough. Yes, but
beyond. Well, yes, you're absolutely right. And back in, I think it was 11-12, right? We did cut the $800 million out of the budget, and not only that, money went back into the rainy day fund, which was a good positive thing. So we know it can be done. It's just having the leadership to make sure that it gets done. The other thing is that while there were a lot of vetoes, and because these bills were put on the governor's desk, and you can either veto them or you can sign them or you can even let them just ride through and become law. There were a lot of vetoes that were done, yes, but there were also some bills that should never have been signed, bills that reached his desk, such as the therapy ban, that got in the way of parents actually being able to advocate for their children and get the kind of treatment that they needed for their children. There was a bathroom bill that, why are we even discussing what bathroom the children are going to be using? Why are we confusing them with all of these kinds of ideas that we've got to broaden things and make them all inclusive? These are bills that should never have been signed, and yet they were.
Well, what are you going to be doing to bring the economy back to where it was? I mean, we had an economy that was going full steam ahead, and it was generating lots of money for the state. And all of a sudden, we have the virus problem, which is preventing things from going on like normal.
Well, first of all, I would have done what Kristi Noem did. I would not have closed the state. I would have relied upon the individual responsibilities of each of our Granite Staters to make the right decision for them, for their situation. They would still be working. They would still be bringing in the income. They would believe that each of them were essential to their family, to their job, to their situation. And I would be believing in the public to be doing the right thing. And we would be giving them information. Okay, there's this potential virus out here that could be very contagious. If you exhibit any of the symptoms, be sure that you're staying at home, making sure that you're not infecting other people. We knew that it was starting to hit our senior population. Why weren't we going and investigating what's going on in the senior population that is making this so deadly to them? The other thing is that we found out through data that our children, there was no reason to close our schools. Our children should have been going to school and enjoying their friends and being able to have that face-to-face contact, being able to participate in their sports. We don't have sports anymore. I mean, you think about the fact that if we want to go watch a hockey game, we can't go because the hockey rinks are closed, or we can't go to a baseball game because we're not supposed to have more than so many people in the stands. And if you do go, you've got to put some face covering on. This is all very confining, and it's not our live free or die state. It's more like live to comply with the rules that have been put in front of us. That's not what our founding fathers fought for. They wanted to get away from that king, and they wanted to be able to govern for themselves. And when they did, look at what they built. This country was thriving left and right, and we shouldn't be giving that up.
Well, how do you think it should be regulated? Should the government give the rights to each individual company to run it, just like he's doing with the schools? But the schools are coming up with all sorts of variety that really confuses the parents. And if the parents have more than one child in school, it might be two different ways that, that just doesn't work with the system that was in place.
Well, it's interesting, Carl, because we had 4 children, right? None of them had the same learning style. None of them went to the same process through school. So some of my children went to a combination of public schools and private schools. Some of them were homeschooled and went to Christian schools. Some of them, there was a time when they were actually learning online. So we've had a variety of ways of learning, and I think that's very healthy. But that was concentrated on the fact that I, as the parent, my husband and I, as the parents, would look at the child, figure out what their learning style was, what their interests were, and then we really designed our approach to their education around that. We need to return to that. Parents need to be empowered to take that position. They were the first teachers. They taught their child how to eat. They taught their child how to dress. They taught their child how to talk. They taught their child manners. And some of them didn't, but for the most part, they did. And so we need to return that to the parents so that they can work with the teachers to do what's best for those children and give those children the tools they need so that they can now explore their world, be creative, and expand their territories. And so that's where I would be going with the education department. But there again, back to the businesses. Our businesses also know what is it that they're trying to accomplish? What is their goal? They've got their business plan. They want to put it into place. They don't need to run into a license that's going to inhibit them. They don't need to run in some regulation that's going to say, well, if you do this, you have to now report to so-and-so over here, or you have to buy this kind of insurance, or, there's so many things that we do in regulating our businesses that we really should keep our hands off and let them do the things that they need to do and figure out how to do it. Now, some of them will fail, but then they're going to learn from their failures. And some of them will succeed, and they will make, hopefully, lots of money so that they can contribute their portion to the state.
Well, it sounds interesting to how you're looking at these things. I know back in 2011 and 12, we had the same problem with regulations and stuff, and we had a commission that was started so that we could look at that, and we started getting rid of a lot of regulations. But somehow they've crept back in over the last few years. And, the one with the school, people are saying, too, maybe the state should consider its support of the teaching that follows the student rather than the school. Because right now, the state's giving it to the school, and then they're not having any teaching in the school. What would you do? Would you consider that?
Well, absolutely. In fact, I sit on the city council in Franklin, and because we're a city and not a town, the city is ultimately responsible for the bottom line of the schools. So their budget actually comes under the city budget. And that's something that I would advocate for, because I think that, if the money were to go with the student and the parents were able to have their input on where their child was going to go to school, and that money followed the schools, I think the competition in schools would be much, much better, and we would have a better result in the long run. Because right now, across the country, we've got a 50% literacy rate. In 1940, we had a 93% literacy rate across the country, and we need to go back to that.
Well, it's something, too, that I find that the schools almost feel that one way is good for everybody that goes to that school, when there's different levels of how the kids learn, what kind of interaction they have, that they function the best at. And that doesn't seem to be in Nashua here. It doesn't seem to be the way to go, but that's what they've been stuck on ever since I've been here in 20 years.
Yeah. Well, and so I am a believer that every person can make a difference. And so I call upon the people who are the parents, and also the citizens of Nashua should be going out and making sure that you know what's going on, letting your voices be heard, because we can all point a finger out there of blame to, this school board member didn't do the right thing, or this mayor didn't do the right thing, or the alderman did something wrong, or the policeman did something wrong. But, I keep going back to the three fingers that are pointing back at me, and the saying from our president, John F. Kennedy, that said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. And I think we need to start doing that a little bit more, changing our attitude a little bit more. How can I make a difference?
Yeah, I think that's true, and a lot of parents don't feel like it's that they're so busy just trying to keep the bread on the table that they don't have time to get involved. But you find that you've been an activist, and you say you have 4 children, so that must have been a strain too on what you normally would do.
Oh, absolutely. It involves making a choice, and you have to decide that your children are more important than what you need to do. There are phases in life, and you'll have your opportunity after they advance through and you've gotten them all the way through 18 and into adulthood, and they can make their own choices now. That's also a thing that a parent of an adult child has to learn too, is that they are their adults, they're going to make their choices, and you're not responsible anymore for it. But while they're growing up, it is imperative that we focus on the child and make sure that they become the best contributing member of society that we can help them to become.
Well, I had the same experience too, but we had 4 children, and we did get involved because it was necessary. Each child is different. It's amazed at that. And they flourished in certain atmospheres and didn't flourish in other atmospheres. So anyway, we're running out of time. What is the last thing you want to tell your audience on why you're running and why you should be elected?
Well, I am the only pro-life candidate that is in this contest at this point, regardless of party. And I am fully a supporter of all of the Bill of Rights in our Constitution. I am a supporter of the right to keep and bear arms, and I am absolutely against raising our taxes in any way. So I believe that we have to be responsible to our citizens in how we spend our money. And so if you want more information, please go to KarenTesterman.com and make a contribution. Tell me if you need a yard sign, whatever it is. Thank you very much, Carl.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and good luck in the election.
Thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.